good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world, welcome. You might hear I've got a little bit of a froggy throat. I have that dreaded virus that has swept across the world. I've escaped it for years and now I have it, well and truly. But my husband has it a whole heap worse. So I'm not really feeling all that sorry for myself because it could be a lot more devastating. I'm witnessing that. I am feeling blessed that I'm the kind of person who has weekly chiropractic appointments to realign my energy. I'm feeling incredibly fortunate that I have positive prime, because I think that that's a little bit like a chiropractic appointment, and I feel like it has, just bear with me for 1 second. Philip, it's so nice that you're here. I forget, tell me in the chat, it's got to have been 10 years since we first met, isn't it? Is it about 10 years, do you think, since you first came across me and my work? It's a long time. If you're talking, you're going to need to unmute yourself. Or if you're typing in the chat, that's all good. Sharon, hello, how are you? Alexi, how are you? Hi, David, how are you, gorgeous? I think it is 10 years. So there you go, Philip. I can only just hear you faintly.
I didn't think it was anywhere near 10 years.
Unfortunately, I think that you may have your hand over the microphone, or maybe your microphone's not working all that well. I can hardly hear you. Okay, that's okay. You've muted. You might unmute yourself. David, I see your gorgeous name. How long have we been friends or been working with each other or known each other? It has to be 10 years or almost thereabouts, maybe even longer. What do you think?
Near the beginning of Mind PT.
Right, okay. So I morphed what was my lithos therapy business in the spa industry that was really very much focused on therapists. That then really became the I Am Grateful business, the I Am Grateful Club, as a result of me writing these books. And I went around and I filmed interviews with all the people who appeared in The Secret and What the Bleep Do We Know and so forth. So David, I would say that it's got to be at least 8, 9 or 10 years that you've been a fan or following or supporting or encouraging, all of the above. So thank you for being here today. Every single week I do this class. I'm not doing it next week or the week after, because guess what? I'm going to be in Bali. So excited. I'm going to be going and spending my time rejuvenating, relaxing, being on vacation. I've organised a water purification ceremony for my niece. I'm taking her. And for me, Bali is the closest that I can get to from my homeland. I was born and grew up in Papua New Guinea. A lot of people don't know that. And so the tropical jungles of Bali and the equatorial humidity somehow make me feel very relaxed, calm, and it nurtures my inner child. And so for me, at least 2 weeks a year in Bali is essential. It's necessary. It's a must. And it is an exquisite place. I do Bali unlike most other people. I used to run lots of retreats there, especially through that spa industry world that I know. Lots of friends. Yeah. And people say, but why Bali? Why not Papua New Guinea? I don't know if everybody knows this, that Papua New Guinea is an incredibly dangerous place to visit. outrageously dangerous. It's one of the most dangerous places on the planet. Unfortunately, it is the truth. And particularly for white women, it is, yeah, people actually drive around in armored vehicles if they're Westerners. So it's a lot worse than some of the stories that you hear about what happened in Zimbabwe many years ago, and why most Westerners fled Zimbabwe and became essentially refugees or immigrants. A lot of, we think South Africans, but actually they're Rhodesians or the from Zimbabwe who are here in Australia relocated. We actually opened our arms, Australia did, to people from Zimbabwe to immigrate here. Alrighty, so Philip, you think it's about 3 or 4 years? Okay, awesome. Who here has a question that you would like me to just literally tap into, connect, and perhaps give you some kind of advice, suggestion? I'm here for you. This is about you.
You know, I'm only going to count to 3. And if nobody else opens up the microphone, then I will.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. So, Kim, I'm just delighted to see you. Thank you so much for holding this call, because I know you've had an energetically challenging few days. So
I have indeed.
So, thank you. My question is more around trusting my guides. Because if you'd asked me 2 weeks ago if I'd be doing what I'm doing this week, I would have said no. Yeah, no way. There's no way I'm taking on anything else. There's no way I'm doing anything new. And yet here I am taking on something else. And Sharon, I sent you a text because I'm doing something new. And so it's like, okay, where do you go to figure out that it's okay to trust? Yeah. So that's my question. Where do you go to figure out that it's okay to trust?
Jackie, I'm pretty sure that you know this, and so this is just remembering, right? You drop into your heart. And often we can't actually do that, usually in the environment where we work, right? Usually where we work, particularly if we're Westerners, we're very much in our head and we're very much not in our heart. Even if we're really kind, caring, wonderful, compassionate, beautiful human beings who serve others, help others, heal others, the truth is that it is difficult for us to be in our hearts. It usually requires stillness. I would say prime yourself with some positive prime sessions that are around heart consciousness. Nadine's is actually an excellent example. I would also, I literally just rewatched Your Leadership Coach by Laura Scott. And fascinatingly enough, Jackie, I know that you're in Florida. You are not far away from where Laura Scott lives. In fact, I've stayed with Laura Scott. She's just an awesome executive coach. She serves really only C-suiters in the corporate world. But oftentimes when we have to make what we think are, important decisions, difficult decisions, and we're feeling a little bit torn, reminding ourselves that we are the leader of ourselves is actually not such a bad idea. And I don't ordinarily go there because I just identify myself as a leader. However, Laura's wisdom in her session, like I'll tell you, there was one that says, I am okay with not knowing. See, leaders are expect to know, aren't they? And so I think a lot of leaders give themselves grief when they don't know. And what you're really saying is that, hey, I wouldn't have said a week or two ago that I would be interested in this path versus this path. Or can it be that these paths are somehow merged, maybe not in the beginning, but down the track, right? And so how do you be okay with not knowing? I would say go out in nature. You live in Florida. It's beautiful. In fact, it's probably beautiful everywhere any one of us lives. We just need to find the beauty, right? For some people, Florida is too steamy. Just like for some people, they can't stand Bali because it's hot. Doesn't matter. It's what serves you, what feels right to you. So I would say go out in nature and be still and try to drop into your heart. Nadine and I talk about breathing into your heart. Sometimes I actually have to put my hands over my heart. Most people don't know your heart is kind of underneath your sternum. I know because I've seen the x-rays of where my pacemaker leads actually anchor into my heart. And I'm like, oh, that's where my heart is. How did I get to nearly 50 and not know exactly where my heart is in my body? Oh, hello. How did I actually even qualify as an osteopath and an exercise physiologist and not know where my heart is? Do you not think that's hilarious? Oh, here's my heart. No, that's where my pacemaker is. Here's my heart, right? Hand over your heart. Really nice, big, deep breaths. I've actually said this a couple of times before. Maybe you'll remember this. You can ask yourself some yes questions. So these are questions that you absolutely know the answer is yes. So I always start with the only absolute I know of, and that is, does the sun rise in the east? Yes. Can you feel where that is in your body? Yes. Does the sun rise in the east? Does the sun set in the west? Now, for those of us who like to be perfectly accurate and right about everything, well, it's true that the sun sometimes rises in the northeast and sometimes it sets in the northwest. There is actually a variation on that. That's the truth from a science point of view. But nonetheless, let's just go with the incredible generalizations. Maybe for you, it's, am I lucky enough to have two legs that work? Can I walk? Can you feel that? That's a yes. Does my body have the wisdom to know how to heal? Yes. Can I actually support my body in healing? Yes. Do I want to do X, Y, Z? Yes. Right? So I think that what happens is that if you can get yourself into a string of yeses, by questions you know the answer is yes to, then ask about what it is that you're wondering, and you will feel a difference in your body. And then you are super smart and experienced. You can't not be if you're beyond 20, 30, 40 or 50, right? You just need to tap into that. So the question is, and is this the right time? And if the answer is no, your answer might be, yes, I really want to do this, but no, it's not actually the right time. That's okay. And so I think that we get a lot of confusion around, how do I get my guides to help me? Well, I think your guides are helping you. All right, I think they're actually giving you signs. I think they are. A lot of us are missing them. A lot of us dismiss them. A lot of us don't pay attention to them. A lot of us are going, yeah, but I want a more obvious sign. Hey, God, I want a more obvious sign. Right.
Yeah, well, mine could not have been much more obvious than what has happened in the last 2 weeks. So so thank you. That was lovely. I really appreciate that.
Thank you. And I can see Sharon's hand is up, which means that maybe she's got a question, a curiosity.
Yes. I have another question. So over these actually a lot today, as I've been going through Positive Prime and going through certain classes, and I do know Positive Prime, every time I watch it, I feel wonderful. I feel incredible. And generally I'm a positive person anyway, but there's something about listening to the videos, especially the ones that are with the uplifting music. I can't stop a smile. And what's interesting is that I know how incredible that is and how I feel afterwards. And yet I can't seem to take the time to do those things, especially like that I know will benefit me the most, because I can't get away from the busyness that somehow I have instilled in what I have to get done in a day. And I'm struggling with stepping away from the things that I have put on my plate, some force, some not, that have to happen in a day, and that those things for me come second, and then don't happen. And I'm trying to figure out how to make myself a priority, and doing these things, especially starting out with Positive Prime and all the other things that I know are such a benefit.
Oh, Sharon, I love you being raw and honest and vulnerable in sharing that. And I think that there are lots of people who would say, that's what I'm experiencing as well. I'd say the first two things that come to me, and I know that there might be some others on the call who have some suggestions too, but the first things that come to me is, one, creating a habit or a ritual.
Right.
So it is actually, honestly, pretty difficult for me sometimes to watch a Positive Prime session first thing in the morning for 1,000 reasons. I either forget. Mostly it's because I pick up my phone and I look at my mail and I scan my emails and I'm hijacked.
Mm-hmm.
That's me allowing myself to be hijacked, completely distracted, taken off track, not doing the very thing that I know. So one thing that I definitely know is that we, quite frankly, are in control, are leaders of ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
And some of us who are very supportive in roles that we have in our lives, we sacrifice ourselves like martyrs. And the reality is that it comes down to two other things. We feel we're not worthy and deserving. So there's an enormous self-love process that goes on. And I hate to say this without polarizing or igniting some kind of debate. I think it's a mostly women thing.
Mm.
I have noticed that most of my male clients do not struggle with this. I've noticed that most of the men in my life do not struggle this. They somehow seem to take care of themselves first.
Yes. Yeah.
I often wonder whether just that human nature makes it so. And that's actually one of the reasons why it's not such a bad thing. Like maybe human nature needs that to be the case. And so I've often wondered whether not judging that or not resisting that or not railing against that is actually in our best interest, particularly as women.
Mm-hmm.
But how do we do that? How do we become the kinds of people who can compartmentalize if we're female and look after ourselves? I think we make it easier when we make something a habit, a ritual in the morning.
Right.
So I have what I would call fail safes. I don't know if you know this in manufacturing processes. So if at first it gets through this gate, it doesn't get through the next gate. So guess what my second gate is? When I come to my office, which is every day for me, most days, I will watch a Positive Prime session because I'm in the habit of watching a Positive Prime session on my desktop if I've missed it in the morning. And if not, then I'm just watching a second one.
Mm-hmm.
stacking things that are good for you. So I got into the habit, and it was a habit, of making sure that I do my magnesium, zinc, vitamin C, whatever else is in that powder, and my turmeric and my vitamin B and all that stuff, water. And I got into the habit of drinking that whilst I was making my coffee, waiting for the kettle to boil because my husband has tea, right? You get the idea.
Yep.
So yes, we declare to ourselves that these things are important to us. Yes, we make conscious decisions that we are more than important enough. Yes, I think it does take time being patient and understanding with yourself and standing up for yourself. And I think that lots of positive prime sessions over a long period of time, lots of different ones,
Right.
have actually helped me to claim me for me. I wasn't like that. I actually just shared with somebody before, I was a people pleaser. I'd go out of my way, bend myself backwards into a pretzel to actually try and overcompensate for my own inadequacies and insecurities, and helping everybody else before I was helped. And I mean, ultimately, it didn't really get me what I wanted or where I wanted to go. And the more that I would help people, the more resentful I would be, you know, like, why don't people help me? And then I actually went through a stage where I flipped that. And then I, quite frankly, I wanted more to be given, and I just focused on receiving. And then I found I was really out of equilibrium with that as well. And then I felt guilty that I received so much from so many people because I'd flipped it too far. Like, sometimes I think that happens.
Yeah.
It's still a delicate balance,
Right.
or balancing act. I'm still learning. I'm still making mistakes. The truth is, though, if you do truly want to be healthy and abundant, and I mean mentally healthy, emotionally healthy, healthy in your relationships, healthy with the way that you're reacting, with the way that you're processing, with the way that you're listening. And when I talk about abundance, it's being really abundant with the numbers of friends that you've got, really being abundant in the amount of self reflection time you've got. Like, abundance actually shows up in a lot of ways. So look for all the ways. When you're giving yourself time, you'll actually feel like you have an abundance of time. And when you feel like you have an abundance of time, I think you also feel like you're a little more in control, and you can be decisive. You can be more in your own power about how it is that you're investing your very precious time. Right?
Yeah, because I know go ahead.
Yeah, go.
I was going to say, if I know that if I start out that way first thing in the morning, because I've already integrated like I do my Qigong in the morning and do my kind of basic sort of stuff first, but then the rest of the day then is what tasks that I have to get done. But I know if I start out that with that positive, that, this day's just incredible, and don't let any negative come in, I know the rest of the day goes that way. So it really is, kind of integrating that. Yeah, I'd say the positive prime, probably even before I do, say, my exercise, so that it's the first thing that starts me in the morning for everything else, I think, and make that a habit.
Sharon, this may or may not be you, but I think it's worth saying. A lot of us who are overachievers and A-type personalities, we actually set ourselves up for failure by giving us too much on our own plates. One of the greatest things that I actually did learn from a mentor of mine was to take things off my I must get done today.
Yes.
And, it's like this, will this matter in 5 years? You've heard that question, will this matter in 5 years? And I say this, Sharon, because I was just running a different group. So we have active affiliates at Positive Prime who love going out there and sharing Positive Prime and earning referral commissions. And so we run basically a group 2 hours earlier than this. And it's fun. And, the people who are showing up, they usually want to make money from Positive Prime, through Positive Prime with Positive Prime, right? So I shared with them, I absolutely suffered for decades as a perfectionist and as a procrastinator, and those two go hand in hand. And I keep a very neat and clean and tidy house.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned that the best thing I could do was to pay a cleaner to come in. And I used to have a cleaner come in twice a week. And she made this joke to me that nobody's house was more clean that she cleaned.
Yeah.
Right. And I thought, I'm embarrassed. And she was like, I have no other client who's more demanding than you. And I thought, I don't want to be the demanding
Right.
client. Right.
I'm demanding of
sometimes-
myself is more the issue.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
get that feedback. So you have a choice. All right. So do you want to transform and do you want to transmute this situation, or do you want to continue to be this? It's just a
Right.
choice, right?
Yep. Yep.
So I literally had this person cut back to once a week. And I would literally train myself to be okay with the not pristinely, perfectly sanitized cleanliness, which was just so OTT now that I look at that. And I think not only was I driving myself nuts, I was driving other people nuts unnecessarily. Right. So one of my mentors said to me, you know, Kim, you try to get more done in a day than most people, but a lot of my team members will tell you that it's like drinking through the fire hose when I show up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not fair, it's not reasonable, and it's not nice. It's not nice of me to be like that with everybody else who is actually doing their best in our team. And so sometimes it's actually better for me to ease off. And I constantly feel like not enough is getting done, not enough is being accomplished fast enough. And I have this ridiculously frenetic pace. It's not okay. It has taken me decades to get to that point where it is not okay for me to be like that with the people who I work with or the people who work with me. It's too demanding. It doesn't honor them. It is not respecting them. And it is not demonstrating that I am cherishing them.
So is it literally saying it's not okay to do that and changing, or is there something you did to help facilitate that to happen?
No, I think I actually became tough love on myself and firm. And it's a work in progress, right? So some days and Mayumi will tell you, I haven't learned a thing. I haven't grown. I haven't changed. I certainly haven't transformed. She's like, Kim, it's ridiculous. So sometimes you've also got to have these conversations with people that actually give them permission to tell you that it's actually not okay. Right? And I would be wounded with that feedback before I'd been through all of the sessions that are on Positive Prime. Now, I'm going to tell you something really interesting that I think is actually interesting. So tell me if I'm right. I had been to the Life Mastery University program with Tony Robbins. I'd done the whole lot. I'd been to the high level. So this is in addition to listening to all the cassettes, that ages me, and going to 2 UPWs before I went to, that's Unleash the Power Within weekends, before going to like Date with Destiny and then Life Mastery University, which was, I don't know, 19 days in Hawaii. It was just the most intense 19 days of my life. Anyway, and that was in 1999. And then I went again in 2000 because I couldn't get enough of it, because I was like, I think Gabrielle Bernstein wrote a book about being a spirit junkie. I was absolutely a personal development junkie. So I was consuming all of this, but not applying a lot of it. But everybody else from the outside would have said I did apply it, and I was, you know, really achieving, and I was a super high, you know, highly respected A-type personality, right? So anyway, I did all of the reading the books, doing everything else, Deepak Chopra, also with Joe Dispenza. I was one of the very first people to go through Joe Joe Dispenza's, an original immersive. This is when he was still a, doctor of chiropractic and had never even mentioned that he had done any study in neuroscience. My point is, I had basically done a lot of personal development, self-improvement. I'd actually done all the Jack Canfield stuff. I had bought every program from Learning Strategies Corporation, which was Dr. Paul Shealy and Pete Bissonnette. And that was, I bought this incredible program that was Brian Tracy's, and it was all those home study things, and the folders were this thick, and they had all the CDs. By this stage, we were into CD land. We were kind of on that part of the chronological journey. And yet there was lots of my life that was still not working. And it wasn't until I actually invented what is a positive prime session that would get past me.
Yeah.
That's why the speed is necessary, so we can bypass the conscious critical judgment factors of the prefrontal cortex, so the content actually goes in. Because content, more learning wasn't serving me. I was great at learning, awesome at learning. But somehow the filters were still arguing with all the wisdom. And it wasn't integrated into my identity so that it wasn't organically pouring out, right? Positive prime is literally what opened the floodgates. And actually, Dr. Paul Shealy, when I stayed with him in Minneapolis, said exactly that. He said he'd never seen a technology, not in his 30 years in the human potential movement, that does exactly this. It opens the gates so that the content can access your mind and your heart and your soul and your other than consciousness. He'd never seen anything like that. You should all go and have a really good look at Dr. Paul Shealy's work. He's an amazing genius. He's not actually famous for it, but he should be. So,
thank you.
We're all works in progress.
We are.
And forgiving yourself for being who you are is, I think, one of the important first steps. Right? I have been less than admirable, even in recent days and weeks. The first step was me really just dropping down into forgiving myself. It's okay for me to regret having done something. When I do that for me, I can be that for others. Right? There's a lot less tension. There's a lot more grace. There's a lot more opportunity for mutual understanding. And interestingly enough, that's where flow comes from. Right? And for all of us who are wanting breakthroughs, flow in relationships means delicious laughter. It means snuggles and hugs. Flow in relationships that are commercial of nature or business-like, that actually means everybody is just singing from the same hymn sheet. They're rowing in the same direction. Right? Flow in our being means that even though I might have the dreaded lurgy that has, caused the whole world to stop and created untold havoc on all sorts of families and businesses, it means that in flow, I can heal more efficiently and effectively. Right? I'm sure that you will have seen some of our recent emails. The bizarre, no, not bizarre. Of course not. The coincidence, no, not coincidence. We're all more evolved here. The research results from the University of Technology, Sydney, actually just proved with EEG, HRV, skin conductance, skin temperature, and eye tracking in particular, that positive prime impacts brain dynamics in the most
100%.
efficient, effective way possible. We drop into synchronization of alpha and theta waves, right? So guess what? That means we drop into flow. And so sometimes when we're fighting with ourselves, like, oh, I'm not getting enough done. Oh, I have to do this. The question is, do I have to do it? I mean, do I really have to do this? Do I really have to do this? Right. Well, ask that question from a state of flow. Right? So sometimes you can be very smart and you can say, hey, guess what? That self-love exercise called positive prime sessions, right? They are actually, they're necessary to get me in flow. And when I'm in flow, guess what happens? I then get a chance to perhaps make a better quality decision. That's actually scientifically proven. When you are positively primed, you make better quality decisions. They did this with sales traders actually in the financial world. What they actually found, because they tracked all of their results, positively primed traders made profitable trades more than negatively primed traders. Fact. Your brain just works better, right? You can assess risk better. It's bizarre, isn't it? Let me go here. I just put into the chat this particular page, so just bear with me. It's positiveprime.com/tutorial / down here is the thing that I was just referring to. Positive primers were shown to have continuous synchronization. That's a very scientifically important phrase in alpha and theta power. So what actually happened in the research was we actually had participants that were negatively primed with the news, with images of disease, destruction, quite frankly, natural disasters, et cetera, et cetera. So we negatively primed people and then we positively primed them, and we saw if you were swinging from really negative to really positive, what was the impact on your brain dynamics. We then had people who were neutral. We showed them pictures of light switches and chairs in neutral, sanitized environments. And then, of course, we had people who were positively primed, and then we positively primed them with a positive prime session. And so we did this incredible research. Anyway, so what we found was that people drop into synchronous brain dynamics. Now, the interesting thing for scientists is we'd like to say, hey, can you say that in English? In plain English, please. But that's being disrespectful to these academics who are these extraordinary scientists in brain computer interfaces, right? And so we can't water down what it is that they're actually saying. But what it means is that if you positively prime yourself, you're more likely to be in a state of flow. It only takes a couple of minutes. Get yourself into the brain state. And we know that our brain communicates through our endocrine system, through all of these neurological pathways, with everything else in your body, including how open you are in your heart, right? So you get yourself into that brain state. It affects your mind. It affects your heart. It affects your stomach, right? Your microbiome, if that needs some help. Anyway, you get what I'm saying. Get yourself positively primed with a positive prime session first, and then ask, is this really that important? Am I making something urgent that isn't actually all that
Thank you so much, Kim. That was so helpful.
Pleasure, Sharon. Love you. And go and continue being a bright, beautiful human being, right?
Thank you.
I love it. I just saw a beautiful hugs from Edwina as well. I've gone just a bit over the 10 minutes. As you can hear, my voice is breaking up. I don't want to leave any of you if there's something that you would really like me to address. And I do see that your hand is up, Wendy. And so we're not leaving until we talk about what it is that you'd like to talk about. I think you'll need...
Aren't you a sweetie? You've probably already answered it, actually, between Jackie and Sharon's questions. I'm like coming back to life after 18 years from a car wreck years ago. And I'm doing the searching for the purpose thing, and several things poke out. So I guess I get you to positive prime, get in the flow, stay in the grace, get quiet, drop into my heart and listen, right?
Yes. And
I'm good at learning.
And there's nothing like action, right?
Yeah.
So here's what I think about purpose. I'll give you this great example. Positive prime in its purpose could either be 100% focused, right, on helping people get happier. And we could orient all of our marketing messages around that. And I could say my purpose is to help people feel happier, right? That is actually the truth. Positive prime will actually help improve your predisposition to happiness and your ability to sustain happiness or pleasurable feelings when you're feeling them. That's actually a scientific fact, right? However, and I could orient positive prime. It is the most extraordinary tool that actually improves performance. Two very different purposes, both equally valid and both correct and both accurate. We can be and, all of us. We do not have to be either or, right?
Right.
That's what I'd say about searching for your purpose. Your purpose could be to be an awesome role model, which means walking your talk and living your truth and holding yourself to a higher standard, right? Your purpose could be demonstrating to others. I think of Lucy. There's a woman in our community, and Lucy is in her 70s, and she's taught herself how to do webinars and how to create online courses. And she has this whole group of people who are in that third act. As Dr. Wayne Dyer says, I don't know if you've ever seen his amazing movie about the acts of our lives and the final phase or the third act. Anyway, her purpose has clearly shifted, but it was always because she was a teacher in San Francisco in her career. Her purpose has always been to teach, to inform, to transfer the learning. And she's actually just doing it, interestingly enough, in a really new, different way. You don't need to divorce yourself from several purposes or dharmas. Like, what is my reason for being on this planet? I actually settle with something that I'm pretty sure applies to all of us if we actually allow ourselves this. My purpose for being on this planet is to be love. And when it's really tough to love me, dive deeper into loving me. Right? When I'm not feeling like I can love someone else, to just really be loving them. I was thinking about somebody who has really hurt me over the last couple of days. I was literally only thinking about this last night. And there's, Joe Vitale's made this quite famous in recent years, the Ho'oponopono, Hawaiian wisdom, where you think of somebody, I am so sorry, please forgive me, I love you and thank you. I'm so sorry, please forgive me, I love you and thank you. And I actually was thinking about this woman and, am I in full forgiveness? And I literally in that moment switched it back on me. Kim, the full forgiveness happens just organically and naturally, it just is, when I am in full forgiveness of myself for the bad actor I was in this. Did I exacerbate it? Did I go about it in the right way? No. Do I regret it? Yes. Holding on to that, is that going to serve me? No. Can I fully forgive myself? That is an act of love. Can I deeply, deeply, deeply drop into the deep, 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 pure divine love for myself? Now, my purpose in being love means that I created this thing, I invented this thing that helps other people to feel brighter, like they have a brighter disposition, to feel that their future can and will be brighter because they are an agent of change in their own lives, right? To be brighter intellectually because we know that positively primed brains fire in all sorts of weird and wonderful, interesting new ways. So when we put brains in functional MRI machines and we watch them after they've been positively primed, their brains actually act in a different way. right?
Right.
So my purpose is to positively prime people. It's an act of love, right? I would say your purpose, Wendy, is to spread love, and it's either through art, or it's through kindness, or it's through healing others, or it's through your, you know what I mean? That's the purpose we all have. We just allow it to be carried through different vehicles or the expressions thereof. And I don't think any of us can argue that the greatest, you know, I think of the Sistine Chapel, you know, the paintings. You can't have created art like that without pure love for what you were doing, for where you were at. And we know love sometimes makes us crazy.
True.
And thank goodness it does. Right. So just, I would say, just soften the edges around that, and just allow yourself to go out and have fun and be in service, and in the doing and the acting. I think that the feedback, if you're open to it, starts to emerge, and then you just keep going in this direction.
Okay.
Mwah. And yes,
So I just
go
teach
spend
more
time in nature,
classes,
be still.
get more feedback.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
All right. Love you all. If there's anything else, that would be enough for this week. So I'm so sorry, but I'm not really actually. I mean, yes, I am sorry. I'm not going to be here next week, but I'm actually really happy. I'm going to be on vacation in Bali for 2 weeks. So see you back
right.
on Monday, the 8th of August, if you want to put that in your schedule. All right. Love you all. Thank you.
Thank you,
Have a good
Kim.
trip.
Have fun.
Stay safe.
Okay. Bye.